Hi, I'm Marianne
And I'm Toni Farmer.
and we are back for another season of The Goal is to Become a Gardener. And thank you to our sponsor, Garden State Wine Growers Association.
This year we're taking our garden to the next level.
We are, because we're starting earlier. We're starting with seeds. My tomatoes are going to be planted from seeds, which I've never done before.
Don't worry, you're going to be great.
I know. I'm trusting you, Toni.
I'll walk you through it. Let's go.
All right.
Whoa! Well, it's dirt, actually.
That comes out of it and not dust.
We have a couple things that we need.
Okay.
Everyone needs to start out with 3 pieces, generally speaking, to plant their seeds. So it's the seedling cells right here, some kind of tray that holds water, and then some kind of dome to put on top to trap the moisture and the heat temporarily.
I've always started in the backyard.
Yeah.
So this is now a better way.
It gives you much more freedom over what you're planting. So if you go to the garden center, you get their one tomato, their one pepper variety, whatever. I can pick from thousands of varieties in a catalog and plant whatever.
Why can't I do that in July?
Well, we plant everything to gardening has a season and a time to it.
Yes.
And I want these to be ready to go outside when the weather warms, but they can't go outside yet because it's too cold.
But couldn't I just wait for when they can go outside? Couldn't I just wait and plant them then?
You could, but then you would be harvesting in October if you even got that far. So starting seeds inside gives us a head start on the season. By the time it warms up and I can plant them outside, these will all be the same size as what you see at the garden center.
I get what you're saying. What I buy in the past at the garden center, which is a little pot with a little green thing, I'm making that now. Last year from my string bean plants, I took the seeds out of, I don't even know, would it be dead?
Yeah, it would have been dead.
Yes, these are those seeds. Is that incredible?
That's advanced gardening, Marianne. I'm really glad to hear you didn't. That's wonderful for so many reasons. It's better for the climate, better for the plants when you do that. But we can't plant those today.
Of course. Why?
Because beans, the way beans grow, they would really prefer to be planted outside once it warms up directly in the ground. And they grow so fast that I don't have that issue with having to wait. They'll produce, in a month and a half.
You know, my quest continues to be tomatoes.
Yeah.
I mean, last year I got one. The tomato. Yeah. The one tomato is pretty good.
So I thought we could also do some watermelon.
Okay.
And I thought we could do some sunflowers. Because they're beautiful and they're good to attract pollinators, which means you get more of this.
They attract bees.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, okay. You call them pollinators, I call them bees.
Well, a lot of other things pollinate besides bees.
Okay, all right.
Because I start so many seeds, I use the seed trays with little tiny cells in them, and you can buy these anywhere. But today we're going to use the slightly larger containers, so let's put them in. This is my watertight tray. Should put those in there. I need to have holes in the bottom for drainage, though. That's critical. So if you are using some kind of recycled container like this, make sure you either poke holes. This cute little, so this is I think I had strawberries or something in here, and I've got holes in this one. I've got a lid. And this is airtight because it was something else. And I've kind of got the whole setup for free right there.
That is genius, because everyone has them.
Yeah, everyone does, and we're looking to use them, right? So I want to put some potting mix in here. Don't use soil from your backyard. Soil in your backyard is not the right thing for tender little seedlings, and it also potentially could carry some soil-borne diseases that wouldn't hurt an adult plant, but could make it really hard for a baby plant to grow. So we're just going to fill some of these up here. I've put soil about halfway through here.
Okay. You know what's hilarious about this? See, if we were at my house and not in this beautiful she shed gardening center, I would have the bag of dirt that I would be pouring into these little spots.
What's the fun in that? So why don't you do yours now? You can do them right in the tray here. Very good. Just halfway, because we want to leave some room in there.
They're dust that comes out of it.
Well, it's dirt, actually.
That comes out of it and not dust.
So an important thing at this point that people skip this step is make sure you have some labels and that you have written the name down of what you're going to plant, because you will forget what you planted.
You don't have to tell me that.
I'll get one row in and I'll forget what I planted. So we're also going to plant sunflowers today and watermelon, so I'm going to stick those labels in too. And tomato seeds are really, really tiny. So I recommend whenever you work with seeds, you have dry hands because they'll stick to your hands too. I'm going to plant 4 or 5 seeds in each container. That will either give us 5 tomato plants.
Or 1.
Or if some don't make it, we have backup. So you can do the rest of them if you like.
Okay.
Don't put them.
I just put them in watermelon. Can you even see
just
it?
switch those.
Oh, there you go. That's a good idea. Thank you.
That happens. That does happen. And you want to spread them out.
Okay.
Treat them like people. They don't want to be all on top of each other. They want a little social space. So then, do you want to do the watermelon and the sunflowers now too?
Sure.
All right. So why don't you open that packet and I'll open this one.
How many am I putting in here? I put 4 in here.
Just 4, and you want them right on the top.
It's weird because you think of watermelons as being so huge that you wouldn't want to start them here.
Well, they're not going to stay here.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
The size of the seed determines planting depth. So the tomato seeds, I don't want them planted very deeply because they need to just break the surface to germinate. But these guys have a lot of energy in them, and they're going to break open and germinate a pretty large, we call it the cotyledon, to pop up the top. And so I want to plant them deeper.
Okay.
And so I used to poke holes and plant my seeds, and I found it was just a huge time saver to just top everybody off, which is why I don't fill these all the way up. Tomato seeds, really itty bitty tiny. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit, about a 1/4 inch. The rule of thumb I always use is plant your seeds twice the depth of the size of the seed. And I'm putting a lot more on top of my watermelon, maybe a whole inch of soil on top of that because they're such large seeds. Here you go.
Okay, and I see that we're doing this without gloves. Please, please take note that I'm totally fine.
There's no worms in there, probably.
Oh my.
It's better as the plant grows to water from the bottom because it's roots that drink the water, not the stem. And if you water from the top, you have 2 things that can go wrong. One is people see that the soil gets wet on top. They don't realize that it's not wet underneath, and they've ended up just soaking the top 1/2 inch of the soil, and the roots are still dry. So that's one issue. And the other very common issue is something called damping off. And that is when you accidentally overwater your seedlings. They can almost like anything that you let sit in water too long could rot, and you'll see the plants rot right where the stem meets the soil, and then they fall over and you're done. There's no recovering from that. I learned that the hard way a long time ago. So if you water in the tray and put about 1 inch of water in here, and then I'm gonna allow the plants and the roots to soak up exactly what they need. So what I'm gonna do now is I need that dome, right? Now this doesn't really fit over these because it wasn't made to go with this. So maybe we'll stretch a little saran wrap on top of this, and within 2 hours, you'll see condensation on top of this, and then it'll start to get soaking wet, and you'll leave that there until they start to poke their heads up. Just the tiniest little bit of green, and you want to peel that off and throw it away.
So we're not watering again until we see green?
Well, if I look at them and I see that they got dried out, but generally, no, they shouldn't. If I put enough water in the bottom and I cover it, I'm almost creating like a greenhouse in there.
Okay.
I really think this is a great investment, and I waited a long time to buy one of these. It's a heat mat. This warms up to the exact temperature that these seeds need to germinate. You plug it in, put the whole tray right on top of it. It's waterproof, so it's not dangerous to put on here, and cover it with the saran wrap. And in 3 or 4 days, you'll normally see your seeds start to pop up. At that moment, you remove the saran wrap and the heat mat, you're done with it. And then you can go plant more seeds if you want to.
Okay, so hold on. How does that know the temperature that these seeds need to be? Or are all seeds getting the same temperature?
So all seeds have a window.
Yeah.
And this covers that range.
Okay.
It's about 70 degrees. But I want to remove the tray and the heat mat and the saran wrap when they start to germinate.
Yeah.
I don't want them to become dependent on
As soon
it.
as I see green, everything off.
Yeah. I call this babysitting because it kind of feels that way. You're going to check on them every day. Yeah. You want to make sure that this soil is not soaking wet but not dry. Almost like if you wring a sponge out and the sponge is nice and moist but it's not soaking wet. It's not that hard to do.
It's very hard to do.
And when you water, you'll water in the tray. not on the top.
Yes, that I can do.
And then the reason we're planting them now inside is because they would not survive if the temperatures dropped outside. So I want to keep them inside, but if the weather gets beautiful, if it gets like 50, 55 degrees or above and the sun is out, what I want to do is take them outside and put them outside like on a patio table or whatever, so they can get full direct sunlight, which is always stronger than anything you would get in your house.
Okay.
The first day I might only do that for an hour. The next day, 2 or 3 hours. We call that hardening off. And what I'm doing is I'm getting them used to being outside and that temperature change. And you need to set a timer on your watch, an alarm, or your phone, because
Get them in.
you will forget. And
You think?
Oh, I forget. I wake up at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, my seedlings are outside.
Oh my gosh. Have you come out here at 1 o'clock in the morning to rescue your seedlings?
No, but the next morning I've come out and I found a lot of dead seedlings and had to start over. So I learned my lesson. I set an alarm, and I want to just continue this process until it's really starting to get warm out, and I'm leaving them out all day long and then bringing them in. I bring them in about 4:30 because I'm always concerned if the temperature drops off suddenly, I want them inside.
Okay. There's so much to remember here. There's no way I'm going to be able to tell if the soil is damp enough, just letting you know.
Gee, who could you call?
And then, how are you going to tell me? What am I going to do? Run over and be like, hey, look at this. What's the soil like?
It's been a few weeks, and look, I've been putting these outside for a little bit, like Toni said, setting my alarms so I don't forget to leave them out there. Pretty soon they'll be ready to be planted into the raised beds. I have no idea how that's going to go. Thank you to Garden State Wine Growers Association for sponsoring this episode, and check back every week because we are getting our gardens prepped for the season.